Good evening, Lewis.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm well. I like the rest of our listeners, want to know, how are you going with Billy Joel's Vienna?
I've just rushed home from work and I had 5 minutes to spare before the podcast started, and I just had a quick practice, and I can get from the very start to the very end in a fashion.
Oh wow! like with stops and starts, or going okay.
I would if you heard it, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's Billy Joel." You know what I mean? But for a person who hasn't touched the piano since he was 5, it's functional. If you knew the song and you heard me playing it, you would probably go, "I reckon that guy's playing Billy Joel's Vienna."
Well, also, a lot of people don't know Billy Joel's Vienna. It's one of the more obscure Billy Joel songs. I thought I was well across the oeuvre of Billy Joel.
Well, this is
I had
the reason.
Never heard of Vienna until last week.
This is exactly why I chose it. You see, because if I chose Piano Man, and I'm at a party in a year when we can have parties again, and there's a piano there, and I sit down and I start going, dun, 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 everyone will look at me and go, that guy only knows one song, and it's Piano Man. Whereas if I start playing Vienna, they're like, no one in their right mind would only learn Vienna. This guy must be a pianist because it must be the 1,000th song that he knows. So it's all mind games.
The next one is they're going to want you to play Piano Man. But don't worry, you're not going to go to a party until 2050, so it's totally fine.
Well, much like Billy Joel, I already resent Piano Man.
A big shout out to all our new Patreon members this week. Now I'm just going to read them out. Usually I'm doing it at the end of the show these days, but I want to read them out because we got some good ones. Simon Neville, Miles Page, Imka, Sharon Peets, Diane Swan, Stacey Smith, Lindsay Jenkins, Alex Turnbull is chipping in into our Patreon now, which is great. Alex. And also I think Greg Hunt is chipping in on our page because someone by the name of BBW Cumpumper 69.
I like to think it's the actual porn star that Greg Hunt accidentally liked.
Someone's shipping to BBW Cumpumper 69 is giving us $10 a month. Big thank you to all our Patreon supporters. You can head to patreon.com/irrational fear. I'm recording. Oh, do you want to go, Lewis?
I was just going to say a big thank you to all the Cumpumper 69 family.
Big thank you to everyone related to Cumpumper 69. I'm recording my end of Irrational Fear on Gadigal land in the Eora Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded. We need a treaty. Let's start the show. Tonight, Rihanna is now officially a billionaire, and like all billionaires, the singer is planning to head into space to open a diamond mine in the sky. And Australia is ranked last among 200 countries for its action on climate change. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says it's not a race. And the ACT goes into lockdown after one positive case, proving that the Canberra bubble can be burst by a little prick. It's Friday, the 13th of August, and sorry, it's very noisy on your end, boys. It's Friday the 13th of August, and what's going to drop first? These COVID cases or Donda? This is Irrational Fear. Welcome to Irrational Fear. Welcome to Irrational Fear. I'm your host, former Premier of Queensland, Dan Ilic. Let's meet our fearmongers for tonight. And now, since breaking out as a Best Newcomer nominee at the Perth Comedy Festival, he's been forced to work at the Chaser and the Feed. It's Nat Damena.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And now, Nat, what's the worst thing about working for the Chaser?
The sexual advances by Charles Firth.
And he's often been referred to as the Lebanese Australian Louis Theroux, but don't try to pigeonhole this young Walkley winner. It's Marty Smiley.
G'day.
Now, Marty, how many former Channel V presenters have Walkleys? Is it just you and Jabba?
That's a guess. Jabba won a Walkley Award for his deep dive into bong smoking in the late 90s.
and he's often referred to as the next Billy Joel. It's Lewis Hobba.
Thank you so much. Yes, the 55-key piano man. I'm the piano boy. It's like I'm doing a gritty reboot of the Piano Man. I'm the son of Piano Man.
Soon we get stuck into this week's fears, but first, here is a message from our sponsor.
On the series finale of Planet Earth, things are really heating up.
Mr. Morrison, it's with regret to inform you that the snow is on fire. you need to do something now.
I've always said I've got a plan, and the plan's the plan. It's a planny plan that's been planned. I've always said that.
Will David Attenborough and the Earthlings be able to stop the emissions in time?
Now, you listen here, Scott. We've only got a couple of years left until the point of no return. The numbers are just not looking good.
Well, that's great. Then we can blame the collapse of the Earth on Labour.
Or will they suffocate themselves and every other living creature in a toxic soup of stinky greenhouse gases?
Everything is dying, Mr. Morrison, and you're doing nothing.
I'm not going to do anything that will cost jobs. And the most at-risk jobs are those on the boards of fossil fuel companies that I'll need after I lose the election in 8 months' time. I've always said that.
Find out in this, the potentially last ever series of the show that jumped the shark after the Renaissance. Planet Earth. Planet Earth is recommended for mature audiences. It contains strong sex scenes as the whole globe gets royally fucked.
Yeah, there you go. Big production this week. What was that, Lewis?
Who's ready for fun?
Yes, this week's first fear. The IPCC dropped their latest report this week, and it was not the feel-good event of the year we were promised. The unsurprisingly bleak report basically means the Earth is fucked, we fucked it, and we're still fucking it. And if we would have a chance to continue as a species, as in to keep on fucking each other, we need to stop fucking the planet ASAP. Fearmongers, how has the IPCC report impacted your week, Nat?
Well, it seems like every climate change report that comes out is worse. It's worse, and also it's just stating the same thing over and over again, which is there's a problem, but no one's ever offering any solutions.
Yeah, well, they just tell us it's bad and it's getting worse.
Well,
and as Dan described many a time, it's fucked.
Well, I read the article today and it said we've got to keep global emissions below from increasing. Sorry, the temperature of the Earth below 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. Otherwise, there will be unpreventable damage to the Earth.
Yeah.
But the article also said, if we can't do that, then we'll do 1.6. And if we can't do that, we'll do 1.7.
I did see that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
You think they've already given up? They're like, look, 1.5 is the dream, but we're aiming for 3.
Yeah. They're moving the goalposts. It's like if I said, look, I'm going to try and eat 1 packet of mac and cheese tonight, but if I can't do that, I'll try and do 2, if not 3.
3 it is. Yeah, 3 it is. It is interesting to see how this has been kind of, dealt with this week across the political spectrum. I don't know if you saw the same day as that report came out, the Young Liberals in the ACT were holding a fundraiser in Canberra where they auctioned off a lump of coal from the Adani Carmichael mine. How much do you think a lump of coal from the Adani Carmichael mine would go for at a Young Liberal fundraiser? How much do you think it went for?
Oh, God, $500?
It's a good question. I don't know the price of a lump of coal, and I should. And I feel terrible about it.
This is a very John Hewson gotcha moment here where he couldn't explain the cost of EST in a cake. No, this lump of coal went for $2,600. Someone paid $2,600 for a lump of coal from the Adani coal mine just to own the greens?
To be fair, we do live in a world where people pay over $6,000 for bags of air from concerts.
Well, yeah, Justin Bieber's the water bottle he left on stage. I would pay a lot of money for that lump of coal that ScoMo had in Parliament House. I mean, that is iconic lump of coal, that one. I'll put that straight in the pool room.
Isn't that quite indistinct from another bunch of lumps of coal? You'd have to get it signed and authenticated with a certificate.
What? Do all lumps of coal look the same to you, Dan? Unbelievable.
Classic.
To me, each lump of coal is a snowflake, beautiful and individual.
Classic climate change activist chat there.
It's funny, the only positive of the climate change report for me was that it bumped my lockdown panic down a peg. You know, like I'm like 12 weeks into Sydney lockdown. I'm losing my mind. My anxiety's never been worse. And I'm like, well, this is the worst thing that will ever happen to me. And I'm like, oh, no, that's right. I'm going to burn in 10 years. That's actually worse.
How do you guys feel about... Go, Matty.
As someone who has been caught in a climate change disaster, the New South Wales floods of this year, I can tell you guys it's a very scary thing to be caught in. And I can tell anyone listening at home, you know, you don't want to be in the situation I was in. I was stuck at an Airbnb that cost $200 a night. I couldn't afford it. I had to be there for a week, and I was caught in a town that I would never want to spend more than, 48 hours in. The 2 nights was fine.
It's so when you know how Barnaby Joyce is always like, we don't know the cost of climate change. Marty should be like $200 a night.
We do know the cost. We do know that we have done the numbers, and
it's
in
so
a cost
boring.
of dignity as well.
It's so boring.
What town?
Actually, I mean, this is maybe a bit wrong, but floods are by far the most boring disaster. Like, because it slowly encroaches. Like, it's like, and then it takes ages for the water to subside. I would go down there each day to see if I could leave over the bridge from Currajong to Richmond back into to New South Wales to the city, and would go down 10 centimeters. It's not fun.
That is a big claim for a man that's currently in his 48th day of lockdown in Sydney.
I hate boring disasters. Give me the ones where it's like it's awful, you know?
Yeah, things should explode more.
Yeah, you want a meteor rather than a fire.
You want pestilence. You want frogs coming from the sky. That's what you want.
The plague, yes.
It's so strange. In the Australian Financial Review, the same day the report came out, they ran an opinion piece. This is the headline for the opinion piece. The headline ran, it said, high quality Australian coal is lowering global carbon emissions. They ran that in the Australian Financial Review. Right. And it was written by a guy called Paul Flynn. And I checked out who Paul Flynn was. The opinion piece was by the CEO and managing director of Whitehaven Coal. Like,
oh God.
Yeah, Fairfax ran a piece today that was an opinion piece from like a coal owner. It's like, this isn't the week. This isn't the week for that. Like, go back to.
We need Extinction Rebellion back. Is what we need. We need big stunts. We need people back on the streets. And it's a bit difficult at the moment.
I like what he's doing. I want to see people put a positive spin on global warming. I can't wait to see a politician get up, organize a press conference, and go up and say, "Look, global warming. It might look bad, but it's delivering fresh, clean water to Africa, one iceberg at a time."
You know how there's the people who I worry about with climate change is the firefighters. You know how there's always like those stories of the 1 or 2 firefighters who get bored throughout the summer and go and light a fire?
Yes. Yeah.
Like they'll never have to do that again. All they have to do is go home and run the dryer for 24 hours. Like
their work is cut out for them.
You can start a fire for the next 100 years.
Dan, would you be into doing a sort of Extinction Rebellion style stunt? You have done a lot of stunts in the past in your comedic career. Would you be interested in, say, building a boat? And because you've been letting people know about climate change for some time now, you are a sort of Noah of Australia. I see you as that character within the Australian political scape.
Marty, I think boat builders is a boom industry. I think there's going to be, I think for where we live in Sydney, I think boat building is going to be the future. People living on boats is the future. And Marty, dare I say, when there's a flood, I will have an Airbnb on a boat you can rent out.
Well, if there's one thing, it's funny that the Australian government has actually invested so much more in building boats and submarines than in climate change. Like they're spent like $43 billion on a never-ending submarine program, and they're just like, we're not going to fight climate change. We're just going to make sure we can put all of Australia underwater when the time comes.
Well, the way we see it is there's going to be sea level rise, so we're going to need more things to put in the sea. Move people from the coast to the sea. That's what we need to do.
We're going to turn all of Australia into a submarine. Yeah.
What was that, Marty? I missed that.
We're being governed by preppers. That's ScoMo's. That's his thing, basically.
It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
ScoMo doesn't look like a prime minister. He looks like him and his wife own a budgerigar farm in North Queensland.
Yeah. He looks like he doesn't have a property on Airbnb. He looks like he's got a property on Stays.
And the and the ultimate prepping is to be a Pentecostal Christian, because then, you know, if something bad does happen, you do have your Airbnb in the sky.
Yeah, that's right. They actually want the apocalypse.
That's one of the great things, like growing up Christian. It is one of the great things about disasters is you can always sort of be like, well, I will be saved in the end. That is what I have to look forward to.
Yeah,
Salvation,
nothing matters.
baby.
Nothing matters at all. C'est la vie. This world doesn't
Light it
matter.
up!
Turn those
Flood the
dryers on,
flames!
boys.
This week's second fear: National MP George Christensen will not run for the Nationals after the next election in order to spend more time with his WordPress. Yes, George Christensen is going to start a pro-freedom website in the style of Drudge Report. I don't know. Have you ever seen the Drudge Report? It's just like this terrible-looking website that just has links to other websites. And I don't know if you know anything about the internet, but there are quite a few other websites that do that job very efficiently. So he may have some competition. Currently, the nationfirst.com.au website, which is his website, is down, but it needs a password to exist. But before it went down, the New Daily checked it out, and it said, out of the 31 links that were displayed on the website's homepage, 30 are from news articles from America. The 31st article was a link to a blog that Mr. Christensen had published in January asking former US President Donald Trump to issue a pardon to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, and saying it would be a blow to the deep state.
Oh, great. Great. So even when he does something that isn't necessarily terrible, it's still for insane reasons.
Isn't that like Australian culture to just take something from America and just make it ourselves?
But also, I love that he's saying it would be a blow to the deep state, and George Christensen is part of the deep state. He is. He's in government. He is literally a Nationals Party person.
It's
who
like
has
him
the
not
reins of power in
contesting
Australia.
the next election in his mind is like, I'm already out. I am no longer a politician.
It's also like such a like that approach is so like the guy at school who no one liked, because he, in his belief, at Parliament everyone is hanging out together except him. He's like, there is a group of people that includes everyone but me.
Yeah.
I feel like he wanted to start like a right-wing podcast and couldn't figure out how the buttons worked. So it's like, I'll just make a website. It'll just be a bunch of links.
It's got it's posting blogs. Is someone going to tell this man blogs are dead? It's like using Alta Vista to do your searches online.
He would be better doing a right-wing podcast, Nat. I think so. You guys run a podcast. How hard is it to actually have your own podcast?
Incredibly.
Yeah.
It's very time-consuming, I'd say that.
I mean, it's very easy if you don't want to do a good job.
Yes.
That's how we've always been running it.
Yeah.
It's what other kind of content do you reckon we can expect from this this Drudge Report style George Christensen website? Now, I should remind you, we are streaming, so try not to be defamatory.
Some travel reports of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, maybe some recipes.
I'd love to see like a news breakdown with him with the whip, like called the whip. You know, it's just him sort of cracking his way through conservative news.
I want to see like a Watch Mojo top 10 movie death that made you cry.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Christensen's listicles. 10 ways you know you're a liberal.
Big Trouble in Little Manila.
Yeah, what would be the movie would make him cry? That would be like Day After Tomorrow. He'd just be like this, this absolute propaganda. It's like, or it'd be the one that made me cry because I knew it wasn't going to be global warming. It was going to be a weird ice storm.
And Maybe a photo gallery to his favourite lumps of coal.
I love this. Big Johnny D on YouTube says parenting tips.
Yeah, he could go daddy blogger.
Oh, please don't use the phrase George Christensen and daddy in the same sentence.
This
He's
week's
a conservative daddy blogger. It's a genre unexplored.
ScoMo's doing curry recipes on LinkedIn. He's doing daddy tips.
So true.
Shut up.
This week's third fear. It's safe to say that New South Wales, the health minister, is a major hazard. Yes, Brad Hazard this week caused a bit of a ruckus in Sydney's...
Get out.
Brad Hazard this week caused a bit of a ruckus in Sydney's southwest when during the daily COVID-19 briefing, he said this.
Fair about it. I think probably something in the order of 90-95%, a very high percentage of people are complying. And we're seeing that in places like Fairfield. They've made such a difference there and brought the numbers down to such a low level. I want to thank the people of Fairfield. But there are other communities, other people from other backgrounds who don't seem to think that it's necessary to comply with the law and who don't really give great consideration to what they do in terms of its impact on the rest of the community.
Wow, there are people from other backgrounds other than being from Fairfield? Whoa! I don't know about you. When my dad came out to Australia from Fairfield, he told me life was tough back in Fairfield, and that's why he moved to Beecroft. Fearmongers, what background is Brad Hazard talking about here, Marty?
Zoom backgrounds? Is he having a go at people in their offices? Are they choosing the wrong setting? Is that what's going on? I can't imagine who. I mean, why doesn't he just say it? You know, Lebs, Uzzies, Moe's. You know, we are who we are. Wogs. Just name it, mate.
I found it amazing, like going onto Twitter and like seeing like the response to this clip, and everybody being like, "Well, what does he mean by that?" Like journalists, like, what does he mean by that? He's being racist.
That's what he means, right? Yeah.
There was no question from the press gallery. Someone would just ask, "Sorry, are you being racist right now in a press conference about health?"
Yeah,
Is that what's happening?
He's not talking about French au pairs. It's brown people.
Marty.
Wild allegations, and of course the mayor for Canterbury Bankstown said it was a bit of a low blow. He wasn't happy with it either. Although I will say I did get sent a video from my cousin in the West when this all began, and it was one of our Lebanese brothers on a horse riding his way through the main street of Bankstown. So look, you know, maybe there is some things that the community is doing, but I don't think we should be targeted or singled out for it.
But I honestly think if everyone was on a horse, if every Australian was on a horse, I actually think that'd be we're all socially distanced. You can't get close. You wouldn't need a mask if every single Australian had a horse.
No one can punch a horse if they're riding one.
Very true. Very true. I tell you what, no one's punching that guy's horse.
Marty, I watched the Olympics last week, but I didn't see any of our cousins from Lebanon in the dressage.
Yeah, they weren't. Unfortunately not.
Which Lebanese people in Sydney own horses? Like this is news to me.
Bro, if it exists, we own it. So the rule, if you want me to find it, you let me know. Give me 24 hours. We'll make it happen.
He went on to say this.
Hard news.
No. Brad Hazard later on went to kind of rub salt into the wounds and continue on with his diatribe.
Here in New South Wales, if people would just a small group who have caused these problems, if they would just behave themselves and have an element of decency towards the rest of the community, we would sort this problem out.
There's nothing more decent than riding down the middle of Bankstown on a horse. It's totally fine.
We're bringing joy to the people. I don't know what he's on about.
And decency. Why is all of this talk about decency? You don't need to lay down a coat on a puddle for a lady to cross the road these days.
Yeah, well, he hasn't kept in mind that we're trying to have a gangland war out here, and we've got a lot of restrictions that are getting in the way at the moment. So maybe think about that before you start singling out
Honestly, like I know that the New South Wales police are so crazy about gang warfare, like regardless of how big or small it actually is. But can I just say, I feel like if all of the gangs once again were on horses, like and I know I'm harping on about this, but I'm saying give every gang a horse and a lance and take it back to the full jousting days. There would not be an Australian member of the public who would not be on the side of the gangs. Like this would be like, you know how Australians love an Italian gang but hate a Lebanese gang? They would all love a horse gang. They'd all be mad for a horse gang.
This is good. We should get you on the PR team for some of the most popular gangs.
Yeah.
You know,
This is good, Lewis.
At a
You've
protest,
emerged as a good PR man for the community. This is
thank
good.
you. You know, at protests, like people always chant at horse cops, get those animals off those horses. Just be like, put those Lebanese on those horses. That's my new chant.
We can get around this.
No justice, no peace. Horses for the Lebanese.
This is
Well, that is it for Irrational Fear tonight. Big thank you to Nat Damena, Marty Smiley, Lewis Hobba. What would you like to plug, folks? Marty and Nat?
As I said, we do have a podcast. It's called House Warming. We record it right here in this room, actually, in our share house. And it's about renting and all the
Share
woes and
houses,
miseries
living with
that go
other
with it.
people.
And you've had some really famous people on there. You've had like lots of
You've had Nat
reality
Damena.
TV people on.
Yeah.
You've had Marty Smiley.
Abby Chatfield, Daniel Sloss. We had Linda Mariano this week, who revealed that she used to steal snacks from Lewis.
Unbelievable. I just saw that clip a second ago. I'm like, because Linda Mariano, if you don't know her, is literally the nicest person I've ever met. Like, she's so kind and generous and wonderful and interesting and brilliant. And the fact that for the last 4 years she's been stealing my snack has changed everything I've known about her.
No, Lewis, they're the ones you got to look out for. She'll be the first one on a horse.
You watch.
Lewis, would you like to plug anything?
No, Dan, nothing for me.
I want to plug a podcast called Irrational Fear. It's really great. Make sure you head to the Patreon and chip in so we can pay for an assistant. So that's irrationalfear.com That's patreon.com/irrational fear. Big thanks to Road Mike's Patreon supporters, Bertha Foundation, also Jacob Round on the Teppanyaki timeline, Rupert Degas, and also Robbie McGregor. Until next week, there's always something to be scared of. Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Beautiful.
That was fun.